there to share the wealth in that regard.
Boston was pushed out. 7 to shoot. Boston methodical. On her take. After they had fallen behind by 6 in the quarter, then Sydney Colson, as Aliyah Boston has an extended conversation with the officials, and then is gonna get over to Angel Gray. Angel?
Aliyah Boston walked off the court visibly frustrated. Kelsey Mitchell had just poured in 24 points while running the offense out of position, and the Fever had clawed back from 17 down without Caitlin Clark. Plus, with both Sydney Colson and Ari McDonald sidelined, they still had the game in their hands. Then, on one final possession, it slipped away. A questionable shot choice, no timeout, and controversial late calls the coach would publicly question afterward. We'll reveal what Aliyah said post-game. Short, blunt, and right at the heart of why this stings. First, you need to understand how they got here. Before we break it all down, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to stay connected. Comment down below what you think of this tough loss. Let's go.
7-0 Indiana run. They're within 2 and a foul. This time, Peckers does get the call.
I thought this might have been an offensive foul. Howard for the finish.
Indiana's considering challenging this call, but they will not, as Peckers gets free.
How do you run an offense when your entire point guard depth chart disappears overnight? For Indiana, this wasn't a hypothetical. They were living it just a few days before the Dallas matchup. In a brutal sequence during the Phoenix game, Sydney Colson tore her left ACL, and Ari McDonald fractured a bone in her right foot. Both injuries were season-ending. In one night, the Fever lost 2 floor generals who were supposed to dictate pace, control possessions, and keep the offense organized, with Caitlin Clark already out since July with a groin injury. That left Indiana without their top 3-point guards for the first time all season. No regular ball handlers, no one to absorb full court pressure, no one to run the sets exactly as this roster was built to play.
What's the reaction been from you guys, the players, the coaches, to losing Sid and Ari?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, just brokenhearted for them. You know, they're 2 really good people that you hate to see this happen to. You know, they've been an integral part of what we've been doing, and so hate it for them. You know, unfortunately, it's part of the deal, and we've got to roll with it. And you know, we've got players in that locker room who believe in one another, players in that locker room who are as competitive as all get out. We've got versatility, and it's going to have to be on full display. You know, so I think now it's about playing to honor them. Right, and playing for them.
The ripple effect was immediate. Without a true facilitator to steady possessions, defensive pressure became harder to break. Turnovers piled up, and clean entry passes turned into contested scrambles against Dallas. Those gaps became glaring. 17 turnovers converted by the Wings into 27 points. That's over a quarter of Dallas's offense coming directly from Indiana. Mistakes happening before the Fever even had a chance to get into their half-court looks. Every possession took more energy, every pass carried more risk, and the margin for error, already thin, shrunk to nothing.
It's never fun to lose. I thought we got a pretty good look out of it. But again, I think, you know, we shouldn't have been in that position to begin with. You know, the 17 turnovers got us there. So yeah, we shouldn't have even been there. But I thought, you know, Kelsey got a look at it. It's unfortunate, but yeah, on to the next.
To even field a functioning rotation, the front office made an emergency move, signing veteran Odyssey Sims to a hardship contract. Her arrival came with barely a day to familiarize herself with the playbook or build chemistry. Thrust onto the court in her debut against Dallas, she played 13 minutes, finished scoreless with 2 assists and 1 turnover, and spent much of her time trying to read where teammates wanted the ball rather than playing instinctively.
I'm just excited. I mean, I know that Indiana is a great organization, and just to be a part of it and just to be here with the great players that I'm going to be playing with, I mean, this is a great opportunity. I'm just happy to be here.
What's the most important thing for you in a situation like this to just get acclimated, just to kind of get your feet under you and feel your way around the new spot here?
I mean, it's not my first time just coming to a new team and coming in and just being me. The biggest thing is just doing what I do best. Playing defense, playing hard, doing whatever the team needs. Obviously, I know they've been down with the injuries. Prayers up for Sid and Ari. Love them both. But like I said, I'm excited to be here, and I'm not going to do too much. But whatever coach tells me to do is what I'm going to do and have fun and enjoy my teammates.
That left Indiana with one realistic option to handle the ball on nearly every trip. Kelsey Mitchell out of her natural scorer's lane and into the lead guard spot. The coaching staff didn't have the luxury of easing her into it. Every inbound, every set, and the constant defensive attention all landed squarely on her. It wasn't just an X's and O's adjustment. It changed the physical demands of her game. She had to initiate possessions under constant pressure while still carrying the expectation to deliver as the primary scoring threat.
Kelsey obviously can play make, as she showed in the last game, but it's not like her most natural way of playing, I would say. Do you have to tell her to focus on that? Does she just kind of know that as the primary ball handler in these games, she'll do it? How does that kind of process work when it's not a true point guard at the one?
Yeah, I mean, I want her to just do what she's been doing. You know, she's been excellent all year long. She's been efficient all year long. Her decision-making has been on point all year long.
The Dallas game became a snapshot of just how much those injuries dictated the flow. With a patched-together backcourt, every made basket took grinding effort, and every turnover opened the door for an opponent run. Yet, even in that weakened state, they were right there at the finish because the player tasked with the heaviest lift refused to let the game slip without a fight. For Indiana, that weight fell squarely on Kelsey Mitchell, known as their most dangerous pure scorer, who was suddenly responsible for running the offense from start to finish. Normally, she's catching the ball in scoring position, not dribbling it up through traps or orchestrating half-court sets, but without Colson, McDonald, or Clark, she was the only realistic option to initiate, and Dallas knew it.
Every single playoff game will be on our networks. As Mitchell finally gets a look, her first points of the second half. Curl it in, doesn't get the whistle. Indiana with numbers the other way. Mitchell in the corner, cut it. Big game from Aisha Hines-Allen off the bench. Mitchell sprints into the lane, finds Cunningham. She got it. On a three, and it's a single-digit deficit.
On paper, her stat line was impressive. 24 points on 7 of 15 shooting, 4 of 7 from 3, and 6 rebounds. In reality, those numbers came with nearly every possession starting in her hands against schemes designed to sap her energy. Dallas sent extra help in the backcourt, using traps and quick doubles to make every advance up the floor a battle. Each made shot was followed by another trip where she had to break pressure and still find the energy and focus to score.
Mitchell trying to create with 5 to shoot. Mitchell through the lane, now to scoop it in, and it's a one-point game.
Art's right, but you know she loves to go left. How many defenders try to come over and help about 3 and still able to scoop it up and in?
Mitchell with 24 points.
It showed in flashes, a couple of possessions ending in turnovers, a few forced decisions when passing lanes closed too quickly, but Mitchell kept finding ways to keep the fever alive. In the fourth quarter, down double digits, she buried a deep 3 from several feet beyond the arc, then motioned to her teammates to tighten up defensively. Moments later, she initiated a sharp pick and roll with Boston, threading the pass perfectly for an easy 2. Those were leadership plays, not just scoring bursts.
Mitchell trying to create with 5 to shoot. Mitchell through the lane, able to scoop it in, and it's a one-point game. Indiana ball down 1.7 to go. Cunningham has to get it in. Mitchell in the corner, can hit, and Dallas hangs on. 81-80 the final as the Wings win a thriller in Indy.
This wasn't her preferred role, and it isn't the blueprint for sustained success. Asking one player to carry almost all the scoring and playmaking turns that player into an easy target for a locked-in defense. We saw it here. Every action started and ended with Mitchell, and when Dallas succeeded in slowing her down, the Fever's offense stalled. But the fact that she still had them within a shot of winning says a lot about her resilience. Even so, Mitchell's performance under those conditions was as close to maxing out her capacity as it gets. She was the engine, the clutch shooter, the vocal leader keeping teammates engaged despite foul trouble and frustration with officiating. For opponents, her stat line is the headline. For the Fever, it's the hours of unrelenting work she put in to hold the team together in a role she didn't choose. And the weight of that is exactly why fans are torn, angry at the missed opportunity, but also in awe of what she gave.
So I wanted us to outlet and attack in transition. When it got to the point where we didn't attack and we just started dribbling sideways, I probably should have used it at the 3-second mark instead of a little bit later. I thought Kels might have had a baseline drive. That she ended up coming back to the middle, and so I didn't like that. But I did want us to push in transition with a low clock and limited opportunity.
And while she carried the heaviest load, she wasn't out there battling alone. Other players stepped into bigger roles, hitting key shots, crashing the boards, and making defensive plays that swung the momentum just enough to give Indiana a chance. In games like this, you find out quickly whose impact goes beyond the box score. Against Dallas, it was the role players who refused to let the deficit become a death sentence. Sophie Cunningham was relentless, knocking down 14 points on 5 of 10 shooting and drilling 2 triples that swung the crowd back into it. Every mate came wrapped in her trademark edge, diving for loose balls, jawing after contact, and showing the same fire her coach praised post-game. She later apologized publicly for one heated exchange with officials, but also stood by the point she was making, that competitive energy set the tone for the comeback. Chloe Bibby's contribution was small in minutes, but massive in effect. 11 points in just 12 minutes, hitting all 3 of her shots from deep. One of those was a dagger during a Dallas push that stretched the lead toward double figures in the fourth, forcing the Wings into a timeout they didn't want to burn. It bought Indiana extra rest at the precise moment they were mounting their run.
Gets it back, 4 to shoot. Cunningham into the corner. Bibby again. Chloe Bibby breathing life into Indiana. A 19-0 Dallas run. Bibby buries the 3, just like in the first half when
Natasha Howard was the anchor, posting a 12-point, 12-rebound double-double with 3 blocks, erasing would-be layups and ending Dallas possessions before they could get second-chance points. Her presence meant the Wings had to work harder for everything inside and gave Indiana the stability they needed to chip away at the lead. Aliyah Boston had to fight through heavy contact on nearly every possession, yet still produced 14 points and gave the Fever valuable trips inside when jumpers weren't falling. Her willingness to battle in the post kept Dallas from fully breaking free earlier in the second half and created balance in the offense when the perimeter shot wasn't there.
here's Cunningham. Off to Boston. Boston turns the corner, spinning inside and laying it in.
Lexi Hull's role was singular but important. Make Paige Scher work for every attempt. She chased over screens, contested angles, and disrupted passing lanes. Hull didn't score, but her defensive focus in the middle of the fourth slowed Dallas just enough to keep the momentum in Indiana's favor. This was not the story of one player going supernova. It was everybody doing exactly what the moment demanded. Indiana outscored Dallas 25-14 in the fourth quarter, earning themselves a legitimate shot to win despite missing their entire point guard rotation. That's why what happened in the closing seconds stung more. They had built the platform for a statement win, only to see it undone in a way that felt avoidable.
Chloe, you were on the floor during that late third stretch when the Wings went on that run. What did you see that went sideways for you guys in that stretch?
We were just turning over the ball. I mean, yeah, as I said, the 17 turnovers, and I think we just didn't match their physicality, and, you know, we needed to clean it up, and I think that's what happened in the fourth when the girls come in and they really looked after the ball and, you know, shared the ball offensively, and I think that's how we got into more of a groove. It really started defensively, and in that third, we just let it slide. They had way too many, you know, points off our turnovers.
The Fever's fight back into contention against one of the league's more physical teams should have been the headline. Instead, the post-game conversation veered toward choices and moments that had nothing to do with the hustle plays we just walked through. Those final possessions and how they were handled are what shifted the focus away from the collective effort and towards something far more contentious. In the closing seconds, Indiana's shot at a statement win came down to one decision, and it wasn't made in time. With about 11.7 seconds left, the Fever secured a defensive rebound, trailed by 1 and chose to push the ball instead of using their last timeout. Kelsey Mitchell ended up taking a tightly contested jumper in transition that missed, and Dallas grabbed the rebound. Stephanie White stopped play with just 1.7 seconds on the clock, far too late to draw up anything meaningful afterward. She admitted, "I probably should have used it at the 3-second mark," a rare public acknowledgement from a coach owning a tactical mistake in a critical moment. That split-second hesitation was the kind of detail that can decide a season's trajectory.
You could overturn it to an offensive foul. You could also maintain that it's a foul but take away the continuation. All of those things could happen here on this call.
The interesting thing is, when you get to this point of the play, it is a foul on Boston. But it's because her arm was clamped earlier in the play.
I mean, look at that.
Like, what can she do there?
She literally can do nothing. I don't know how that's not overturned to an offensive foul.
I agree with you.
That looks about as clear as it gets. And you saw how quickly Stephanie White challenged that.
But clock management wasn't the only storyline. Officiating became just as much a part of the conversation because there were concrete, high-impact moments that left the Fever fuming. One came in the fourth quarter when Aliyah Boston fought for position under the rim and the Dallas center clamped her arm. Instead of calling a hold or a foul on Dallas, officials whistled Boston. The call stood after review, drawing surprise from broadcaster Rebecca Lobo, who said she expected it to be overturned.
After review, we have no illegal conduct by Euro, so the call will stand as confirmed. This will be also, Indiana will lose their challenge as well as their timeout. One shot for Euro. Thank you.
That's stunning to me. I mean, Aliyah Boston, look at her. Lee puts her one hand down and then pins Boston down with her other arm.
I gotta say, Rebecca, I'm sure we'll get an explanation from Sue Blau at some point soon.
In another stretch, Sophie Cunningham was hit with a flagrant foul for a closeout on Paige Urs. After review, this came soon after Urs herself had a flagrant on a similar landing space play upgraded earlier in the game. To make matters worse, Mitchell later absorbed almost identical contact on a jump shot without any whistle at all. For Indiana, that inconsistency wasn't just frustrating, it altered possessions in ways that swung momentum.
Paige Beckers putting her hands on Sophie to shove her up. You see Sophie's hand in the air. Both hands are in the air right here. And Paige Beckers is shoving. She is shoving her clean off. Boom. Pushed her right into Howard. Pushed her into Howard. Now she's wide open and waiting for a pass like she just didn't do anything. Like she just didn't do anything. Wide open down here. Look at her. And then all of a sudden you get the whistle. And look at the ref. You see the ref? You see the ref right here. Calling the foul. And guess who the foul was on? Sophie Cunningham.
White voiced what many Fever fans have argued all season.
Kelsey is held or chucked on every freaking possession and never gets a call off the ball. She told reporters, "Aliyah is the worst officiated post player in the league." It was blunt, direct, and left no doubt how she and her roster felt about the standard applied to their stars.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a physical game. You know, I think there's a double standard in how people get their calls. I think Kelsey Mitchell, number one, is held or chucked on every freaking possession and never gets a call off the ball. I think Aliyah Boston is the worst officiated post player in the league. She never gets a call. And you know, there's a double standard there, certainly. But you know, again, if it's going to be physical and you're gonna allow us to be physical, then allow both teams to be physical. If you're going to call the holds and you're going to call the chucks, and you're going to then call it both ways. So I mean, I think that we've been pretty consistent in what we're asking for, and I didn't feel like it was consistent, especially for those two. I think you could call a foul every time down the floor for those two.
You could see the emotional toll stacking up in real time. Cunningham's boiling point came after being shoved by Buckers, immediately reacting with a clear "God damn it" before walking away. That raw display ended with her apologizing post-game, but it was yet another visible signal that composure was fraying. Even Caitlin Clark, sidelined with a groin injury, joined in the silent protest, clapping forcefully in the direction of referee Amy Bonner after the final buzzer. During one tense late-game exchange between White and an official, Boston stepped in visibly upset before Clark put a hand on her coach to calm things down. Boston's post-game assessment was as economical as it was loaded. We need better focus. It read two ways: part self-critique, part reflection on a night where external chaos threw them off rhythm. That dual meaning captured the delicate balance between acknowledging what they could control and calling out what they could not.
What did you feel like was so clunky or disjointed on that end of the floor?
I think it got better as the game went on, but I think just starting, I think the physicality level was a little bit different on both sides of the ball, and but for us, really, I think it's got to be our focus. Like, we got to make sure that we're connected on that end, making sure that we're in the right places for passes, and just being more conscious of us having that ball.
The stakes only magnified the frustration. Dallas was a bottom 3 team this season, expected to be more concerned with draft positioning than playoff impact. Indiana needed the win to steady themselves in the standings. Instead, they slid to 6th, tightening the postseason race with only a handful of games left. And while some voices have called for White's job in the wake of the loss, it's worth remembering she's navigated a roster shredded by injuries while still keeping the team in the playoff picture. The Fever themselves have repeatedly praised the group's resilience and growth under her watch. Whether this moment becomes a turning point or just another missed chance will depend on how they respond. The Fever have proven they can scrap their way into playoff position despite a gutted backcourt and a tight rotation. At the same time, late game execution lapses and high impact officiating calls cost them a winnable game in Dallas. The loss dropped them to 18 wins, 15 losses, and 6th in the standings, upping the pressure on every remaining matchup. So, what's your take? Should Stephanie White have called that timeout earlier, and do the officiating sequences we broke down point to a bigger issue or just a rough night? Caitlin Clark is still rehabbing and not yet in practice, but the team expects her back within weeks. Comment down below what you think of this tough loss. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on all notifications so you never miss out. Click the video on the screen and we will see you in the next one.